Today we will discuss other health impairments. There will be a brief overview of what other health impairments are, and then we will specifically focus on ADHD. We will discuss the symptoms and diagnosis of ADHD and how it is treated. I will then give you several strategies on how to handle students with ADHD in your classroom. Other health impairments is an umbrella term that encompasses a range of conditions. Its most prominent disability is ADHD. However, it encompasses Tourette's syndrome, asthma, lead poisoning, sickle cell anemia, or any health issue that may adversely affect a child's educational performance. As such, there are no common symptoms or signs of other health impairments. As you know, Tourette's syndrome looks different from ADHD, and that looks different from lead poisoning or epilepsy. Due to the fact that we do not have the time to discuss all of these different issues, we will be focusing on just one today, ADHD. ADHD, or Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, can affect children of all ages, but it is most prominent in children under the age of 12. Until recently, in order to even be diagnosed with ADHD, you had to present with 6 or more of the symptoms by the age of 12. So what are these symptoms? ADHD must present with inattention and/or hyperactivity impulsivity. Each of these categories has many different symptoms that fall within it. People who are diagnosed with ADHD must show a persistent pattern of inattention and/or hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. There are many different symptoms that can be present with a child who has ADHD. Most likely, this child is easily distracted, is often forgetful in daily activities, often fidgets or squirms in their seat, often leaves their seat when they are supposed to be sitting, and has trouble waiting their turn. Sound like any students you know? It is important to know that the symptoms listed before are not a complete list. They are nowhere near all the symptoms that any child with ADHD can show. There are many different signs and symptoms of ADHD, and one child's ADHD may not look like another child's. As such, diagnosing ADHD is often a multi-tiered endeavor. If a parent is not already aware and concerned about the possibility of ADHD in their child, often a teacher or school employee may first bring it to the parent's attention. The parent then goes to the child's pediatrician for a diagnosis. The child will receive many routine exams as well as a brief written exam or survey before finally being diagnosed. Children from the age of 4 to 17 are often diagnosed with ADHD. In fact, in 2011, 8.8% of children in the United States had been diagnosed with ADHD. It is recommended that it be treated with a combination of behavioral therapy and medication. More often than not, however, it is treated with medication. There are many medications that ADHD students can take should their parents choose that route. For example, there is Ritalin, Adderall, Daytrana, Capway, Concerta, and others being developed every day. It is important to note that these medications are not always effective and do not always have a positive effect on academic performance. Now let's talk about how to handle children with ADHD in the inclusive classroom. As with every other disability, no two students with ADHD are exactly the same, and as such, some techniques will work better with some than others. As the teacher, it's important to try different strategies with these students and find the balance that works best for them. One instructional strategy for students with ADHD is to use more graphic organizers. Using graphic organizers like story maps has proven to increase comprehension with students with ADHD. Thus, when working with students with ADHD, teachers should model knowledge in categories rather than lists and provide a visual way for the students to organize. Repetition is good for any student when learning, but it is essential for students with ADHD who tend to be forgetful and lack focus. As a teacher, there should be weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly reminders of certain lessons. Additionally, out-of-class tutors or extra time may be necessary for students with ADHD. As you can imagine, distraction is a major issue for students with ADHD. As such, it is important to keep this in mind when you are writing up a lesson plan. You do not want to teach a lesson that has too much stimuli, such as loud video noise, scents, or demonstrations as you are talking. It may distract the student. It is always important to be as clear as possible with all students, but when dealing with an ADHD child, you must be especially clear and concise. If you go off on tangents while giving directions or talk around in circles, by the time you get to what the student really needs to know, your ADHD student has likely stopped paying attention. Many people do not realize that students with ADHD often do not handle change very well. As such, it is very important that you do not go jumping from one activity to the next with no warning at all. When a change in schedule is necessary, make sure to give the student plenty of warning. ADHD students tend to be more hands-on, and thus any application exercises such as science experiments one can do with the student showing how the skills they are learning really translate to real life is likely to resonate more thoroughly with them and to make for a more pleasant classroom for all. There are plenty more strategies that can be used when it comes to students with ADHD, and luckily for you, there are plenty of resources that list these strategies and how to implement them. Many of these resources are even readily available at our University of Buffalo Library electronically. All you have to do is check them out. For now, we will move on to my discussion question. My question is, do you think the increase of children diagnosed with ADHD is due to more awareness of the disability, or is it, as is often claimed, used to medicate children who are just naturally energetic? This will be posted on the UB Learns discussion board. Thank you for your time today. I hope you learned something from this presentation and my brochure. I look forward to seeing your discussions on the discussion board this coming week. Please let me know if you have any further questions and if I can direct you to any further material. Have a great rest of the week.